This week on RSBANDB Update, the Gate of Elidinis arrives as RuneScape's second skilling boss. We discuss mechanics, strategy, rewards, and how there's no wrong way to close the Gate of Elidinis. Also, are normal prayers back, and is altar hopping the newest runecrafting training method? This is RSBANDB Update, episode 1005, recorded Thursday, September 26th, 2024. A boss is a boss. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of RSBANDB Update. RuneScape's second skilling boss arrives this week, and we're going to give it the typical PVM treatment. Emphasis on PVM treatment, right, Tanis?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, Tanis, you're here. Welcome aboard, of course. Also joining us this week, Perdacius. Welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you.
Everybody's second favorite Australian.
That's it.
Yeah, because once there was a meme or a joke in the community that Tanis was the first favorite Australian.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's where that came from.
Real head scratcher.
But Thaxi is also here. You haven't been on the podcast in a while. Welcome back.
No. I have been away from the game for a number of months.
It feels like years. It feels like years.
It's yeah.
But
we're approaching a year.
Yeah, but Thaxi started on Update by discussing a little patch note around Emerald Bolts and became known as the math person this show. But in his prime on RS, did tons of raids and whatnot, and is I'll call a mid to high tier PVM person, but also just generalist quester and whatnot too, member of Clan Quest and all the other fun stuff. But nonetheless, we're going to be talking about the Gate of Elidinis this week on the show. Everything in terms that you need to know to kill it, all the way through the rewards and the drops and everything to that effect. But before we get too far down the road, I just want to give a big thank you to our experienced tier Patreon members, for whom without Update would not be possible. This week, that's Andrew C., Bladecom, Drama Free, Jason S., Jesse W., Kesky, Lemon Lodge, Mr. T, Ricky A, Rippeth, Runestar, The Naked Captain, Tim, and Truth Ray. You'll be hearing more about our Patreon offerings a little bit later on the show, but in the meantime, if you want to follow along, we do have the full show notes available over at update.show. We also have a friends chat in-game, which you can find at BitsBytes, and the community Discord over at update.show/Discord. Also, if you want to, chat with me in game, or just, send me messages or insults or compliments, whatever you please, you can find me in game at Shane12088. I only state that because I'm the only one here that has numbers in their name. No, I guess you have numbers too, don't you, Tanis? Tanis79.
Yep.
Yeah.
I got some numbers.
Yeah. But alrighty, so skilling boss number 2. Interestingly enough, released 3 weeks to the week that Croesus was released, or 3 years to the week that Croesus was released. How do we feel about it going in? Let's start with you, Tanis.
Well, it's a boss, and
we had some fun times last night.
it works like a boss, and I don't. Looking back, I don't know what I expected, but no one's going to be surprised to hear that it's not my favorite.
It slapped you around like any other boss would, basically.
Yeah.
Based on
just
based on the movement and the telegraphing and whatnot. This is my sense of what some of the issues were, but we'll go into this when we get the mechanics. Thaxi, what's your quick initial rundown on this?
It's more of a boss than Croesus was. I think it is interesting that they are 2 for 2. All of the skilling bosses in the game are actually mining bosses. In order to damage the boss, your mining level is the thing that you use. We are here again. So that's, a choice.
And there's lots of
you get other
micro
skilling XP with
optimizations
it,
you can
but it's a
make.
mining
Yeah,
boss.
yeah. I mean, in addition to that, but yeah. Okay, fair enough.
My initial thoughts are I'm worried that it will be repetitive. I'm worried that I'm going to because everything is exactly scripted and timed, and happens at the same time that it'll turn into something similar to Crosus where like RNG doesn't really play a factor.
It's basically like Carapac in that regard too.
Yeah, and there is. With that said, though, this boss does seem to have significantly more RNG than a lot of other bosses. Because a lot of the mechanics, like your mining crit chance and your what was the other thing? There was a couple things that seem like more RNG. They've been moving, like they shrunk down the damage ranges and all the other things. So like you can consistently get the same damage if you go to a boss, and if they have a set rotation like a Telos or something else that people memorize the exact rotation and hit the exact same abilities when he does the exact same thing every time.
You
might get a little less consistent results.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, that's a fair assessment, I think. How about you, Pern?
Yeah, I quite enjoyed it. I mean, again, it's a solo boss, so I prefer those over.
And you're not much of a PVMer, so let's put that in perspective too.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, I enjoy it, but yeah, especially lately, I haven't done a lot in PVM. I died twice the first time I went in there, worked it out fairly quickly. Again, didn't watch any guides or anything, so just sort of what was on the wiki. Worked it out, picked up 5 or 6 kills, and I quite enjoyed it once you sort of work those mechanics out. So saying I still haven't done a kill at Crosus, so I can't really compare it to that boss, but as a general rule, I found it quite fun.
All right.
But I get exactly what Thaxi is saying, is it is coming down to timing. I mean, when things are going to happen, which is sort of what I like too, because then it becomes, I'm not watching too much at once. I know what's going to happen next, so yep, do that. Okay, get ready to do that.
It's
next,
not Arch Glacier.
Like that.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
An interesting. Actually say,
yeah, go ahead.
Well, I don't know. Just on the RNG side of things too, thinking about it, right? There's also the hone perk, so you have a chance of getting double loot, and then you also have or double rocks at once. And then there's the one attack, because I was thinking about Crosus, right? Crosus has it's random where the blob is going to spawn, so you have a chance that you move or don't need to move like around your initial gathering spot. So like there is something that's going to change a little bit, and the mushroom pattern and everything else that like will change kill to kill. With this, it's the Rot and Suffer attack that throws onto, is it all but 1 or 2? There's like, it throws onto most of the things, and it bounces those 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, it prioritizes the ones that aren't cleansed.
Yeah.
So there's that.
But even the ones that are cleansed, like if I cleanse 3 of them, usually, like, it's like if the one that you're at or one that you've already cleansed is free and you can like go between it, that also does change your time. It's like just the randomness that is left in skilling may be greater than the randomness left in combat.
Oh my god, that's shocking.
Right? But this boss, to me, like, it's more road, and I feel like you could fall into a pattern, but like you're going to get that one lucky kill where everything goes right?
Right, and I feel like that's the point where I'm at, is that I am at a very good flow with this boss where, based on the audio cues and, even the music in the background, I know exactly, what's happening and where I need to be in general with my kill. And if those things aren't matching up, we start to have problems. And the thing I'll say on this is that I had prior to this week tried 2 of the 3 old school skilling bosses, Wintertot and Zolcano. Zolcano is the one in Prif. Winterdot is the one in Korend up north. That's the fire-making boss. But this week I also tried Temperos, which is their fishing skilling boss. And the interesting thing about the comparison of the RS3 to old school skilling bosses is I was thinking about you with this, Tannis, because the old school ones are actually more laid back. They're more about skilling and the XP along the road, I'd say. The only one that kind of leans into the deep movement stuff that we're having with this boss is kind of, I'm going to say, Volcano. But overall, I'm thinking that your definition of a skilling boss is maybe more in line with what they've done over on the old school side, and compared to what we've had here. And I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing. I just think based on the movement and whatnot that we were looking at last night. So,
well, I mean, call me crazy. I guess it is a quote skilling boss, but this isn't what I do when I'm skilling. I'm not, I'm not dodging and stuff, and it really comes down to being such a, it's a map tile grid based movement game.
Yeah.
And because of that, field of view is extremely important. You need to be able to see the whole screen, and that's
and then be able to react
from
like the rod attack and whatnot. Which I think we're referencing all these mechanics. So let's just dive into some of those right now, because that's probably the next logical point for us to go through, is to start talking about how you actually end up killing this skilling boss. So with that, and I think this is, you guys let me know if you disagree with this. I think the thing that everybody should be bringing to this to wear is definitely the gemstone mining golem outfit, your best pickaxe if you have it, and let's start with that as a base. Does anybody disagree with that?
Nope.
I mean, I would make an argument that you don't need to have anything other than your best pickaxe, and even that doesn't need to be that great, but...
And that's because of the scaling. Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there when we look at the mechanics.
Not even because of the scaling.
Okay.
I think that's just generally true.
Okay. Other things that I have been bringing, and you guys, I realize I am leaning towards the more hyper optimization side of this setup. The only thing I don't have is the scrimshaw, the rock crushing scrimshaw, because I don't have that from my port. But other things I'm bringing the Ring of Whispers from Sliskay's Endgame. I am bringing the Gargoyle with its scroll because I don't have the core hammer. I also, of course, have the Excalibur, the spices, a few food, and the epitome of kicking it old school, the Dragon Battle Axe special attack, to boost my strength level. And that's kind of what my setup looks like at this point in time.
What was that other thing you had me bring? The spice?
Yeah, the expensive spices.
Yeah.
From a quest.
You need to eat food.
Yeah. That just makes your food heal just a little bit more. Relic-wise, I'm running Persistent Rage to build the adrenaline back up after the Dragon Battle Axe special attack for a barricade. You don't need to use barricade in this fight. That's, like I said, leaning more towards that hyper-optimization angle that I'm going for. I'm also running the Relic power that has the cooldown of Surge, Escape, and Dive. I also have the Relic power that increases the amount that food heals, Blessing of Hat. And when you factor all those things together, you get to, I guess, what a setup looks like of what you can bring. Is there anything else that you guys are bringing that I didn't mention?
I mean, familiar is big, right? Something either a levitate, an aura,
Gargoyle.
If you're feeling expensive, Gargoyle with or without scrolls,
or the simplest method, pack yak.
Yep, yeah, that's how I do it.
Fill it with a bit of food.
But also with the pack yak, what I found is you can put the shards into that as well. So
yeah,
you get a lot more shards and a bigger hit when you do that.
Yeah, that's how Avernick was one cycling this. Avernick, who was on last week, shared a one cycle rotation. Go ahead.
Let's talk about how we actually damage the boss, and then maybe some of the setup stuff will make more sense, and then talk about how what the boss does to try to stop you. Because I mean, we're talking a lot about mining stuff, and basically what it comes down to is you need to bring your best mining gear. for non-core rocks, right? So any bonuses that only apply to like the core rocks, like the mining cape, won't apply here. Beyond that, anything that's going to like help you heal without increasing your max health because of what the boss is going to try to do to you. And that's like, at the end of the day, those are the important things, but it really comes down to how much damage can you put onto a rock. So the things that we're mining have 0 hardness. It is strictly how much mining damage do you get per hit. They take 340 mining damage to kill, and with 110 mining and a max level pickaxe, even with nothing else, you're going to be hitting for close to 300 damage per mining strike. So anything you can get to bump that up. So you get 1 extra damage for every invisible level you have in mining, and 1 extra damage for every 10 levels you have in strength. So like the battle axe you're bringing is giving you the equivalent of 3 mining levels. It's giving you 3 damage out of the 340 you need. It's kind of a game of inches, but at the same time, nothing really matters. The balance on it is really odd, because it is like, in a perfect world, you would hit that 340 damage every time, which you do with a crit. So crits do your mining level and damage in addition to what the hit would have been. So you can get your critical chance up to like, whatever it is, and then your damage caps at 340. So beyond that, nothing else matters. So if you're not hitting that 340 number, like none of the bonuses really matter, is kind of what it comes down to. It's like having the 3 extra damage from having a Ring of Whispers on. If you're going to be hitting a 370, it doesn't actually have any impact whatsoever.
Right, so basically don't overcap on the damage then if you're already at that 340 mark.
It's not worth sweating about every one of the buffs, is what my opinion on it is. Because anytime you crit, it effectively resets your like extras. So like if you didn't crit 10 times in a row, those extra +3s might matter, but you're really getting marginal improvements from that. You just need to get to a place where your mining damage with a crit will overcap that 340 number.
So then in a world where you're missing some of those boosts, then if you have the ability to bring the gargoyle and use its scroll, because that is a guaranteed crit.
Right. Yeah. Is it guaranteed, or is it?
It's guaranteed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, basically your mining level plus your pickaxe's mining damage is like the base number, and then you add on all of your extra mining bonuses past that. And then if you crit, you add your mining bonus again, plus a little bit if you've got...
Or no, I'm sorry, it deals 50% more damage.
Right, which guarantees that you're hitting. So, like, just having a high tier pickaxe and max mining level and a gargoyle, none of your other boosts matter if you're using a scroll on every hit. Not a single other one of your boosts will have any impact on what you're doing. The honed perk might still activate to give you double loot, and that's literally where it ends. Which is
how do we and see the question I have, and we'll get into I keep deferring the mechanics here, but the part that it comes back to me on this is that we're talking about boosting mining, but it's not immediately clear what a boosted divination level will do for you, what a boosted crafting level would do for you, and what a boosted agility level would do for you in this boss. Like, do we know if you have a higher divination level, do you siphon it faster? Yeah.
I don't actually know.
Like, I don't think that's been tested or been said anywhere, but it would.
I should have actually given that.
Right, but how do you artificially lower your divination level?
Oh, you just get it down to 0. You just walk into any of the places that you would normally use to lower your skilling levels.
Okay.
You just chuck yourself in front of the God Wars dungeon for a while.
Fair enough, but and see, maybe that's something. Maybe that is one small criticism I have on this boss, is that it's so reliant on mining.
Yeah, I mean it's a mining boss. I mean everything we're doing is geared at mining, because that's most of what you do.
That's how I look at it.
Which is funny because it gives crafting XP, right? Because most of the XP it gives is in crafting.
Yeah. If you extrapolate that out to if you're even repairing the barriers, but there's people out there who don't repair the barriers. So, in any case, I'm gonna start moving through some of the mechanics now, if that's all right with everybody here, because I think that's the interesting part about this. Like we said, you get into a real flow with it, and the first thing that you have to make the decision of is, are you going to be using those barriers? I use the barriers, and I assume the three of you do as well, but I've seen other people who say, no, screw the barrier.
I actually didn't do the barrier.
Oh, okay. And how'd that go for you?
I actually just forgot to repair the barriers. I was I grabbed a couple of the moon shards at the start for the arcs, and then I just went up and just did the things, and it was fine. I took a yak. I was filling that with the stones, and one big hit, and then it left around 2 or 3k damage. Grab a couple of more mining shards and just hit it normally, and it'd kill it straight away. So
basically, then you can. So what you're saying is that if you really wanted to, you can just tank what's given to you with food, and you don't really need to worry about the barrier then. So okay. And one of the ways that you start off with this is that you go left or right. Again, I feel like this is personal preference. Either side is fine. Which way do you guys prefer, left or right to start?
I go left.
I went right just because I found that the rocks were a bit bigger that way, and when the things were coming down, it was easy just to step to each side when you're doing the mining.
Oh, like they're more spread out?
It's just like, because the rock seems a bit bigger, so it seems to take 3 tiles. So you stand sort of on the edge of it, and then you stand sort of right side, then move to left side as those hits are coming down.
They were the same size. I could be crazy, but I thought they were.
It might just be the way it's designed. I just found that it was sort of easier on that side to just step out of the damage that was coming down.
There is more space between the rocks on the left than there is on the right. I will give you that. I will give you that. I'm looking into it. But one of the first mechanics that comes down that you will have to deal with as you're transmuting your rocks out there is that the boss, Elidinis, will throw a big attack at you and say, "Be gone." And to block that, you can duck behind the steps into the bottom half of the arena, and if you have that barrier repaired, you will take significantly less damage, to the point that when I have it fully repaired, I'm taking about 1,800 damage from that attack, which makes it manageable to the point that you really don't need to worry about it there. So
I think it's a 70% reduction or so.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge.
Yeah, because I was taking 6,000, but I was sort of eating through that. So that's what the barrier does.
Yeah.
So, as I said, I forgot the barrier the first time, and then just hey, that worked, and I just didn't really know what it did, so I just didn't do it. I thought it just added time to the kill.
And see, that's how a lot of people are looking at it, is that, if you're going to be ducking behind those steps, you're just adding seconds on. And, it comes down to what's more valuable to you, right? The time it takes to do the kill, or, the resources you're putting into it in food. So you can make that decision for yourself. And this is where I actually just want to mention here, and we can go into a bit of the scaling, that you want your life points to actually be as low as possible here for this boss, because Tanis and I went in there last night. I was wearing the mining outfit, and he was in tank armor by accident, and you were taking, 2,500-ish?
Yeah.
Per hit behind the barrier.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to my 1,800, and we were trying to figure out, what's happening here? Why are you getting blapped so hard? So keep that in mind. Lower life points is better. And then following that... Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, especially if you have the expensive spice, you can wander in there with 10 health, I don't know how you do this, complete the quest, but if you wandered in with 10 hit points, or, level 10 hit points, and like the expensive spices, like a shrimp would heal more damage than you take from the blast attack. Like...
Oh, I'd like to really see, just for the shits and giggles if you could get a skill peer through all those quests to do this boss and see how that would go.
I'm sure it's doable. It sounds like a lot of work, though.
It is, and that's the sense I've come to feel with my skill pair. But anyways, topic for another day. Anyways, following from that, you continue transmuting and eventually mining the rocks. And I also want to point people at this point in time that there's a bar below your barrier strength that will count up. First time it counts up to 10, but subsequently it will count up to 7. And when it hits 7, that's when the boss is going to do its special attack. Either the Begone attack that we mentioned, or the Rot and Suffer attack, which is the next one that I'll mention. And the thing about this one is that first to me it seemed very random where the energy pulses would go and what rocks they would hit. But over time it became clear to me that if a rock has already been cleansed, there's a lower likelihood that the Rot and Suffer attack will explode out from that rock. So maybe if you're there in a group, and I say group, we'll talk about solo versus group after, but I'd say maybe if you're there in a group, that's a reason to, in effect, siphon, or why do I keep saying siphon? Cleanse more before you start mining. But this attack uses the same telegraphing mechanics that we saw in the Sanctum, and I have to say, you really just got to move out of the way, and Tanis, I feel kind of bad saying that, because that's, I think, the thing that was getting you the most.
No, it is. It's okay. I mean, it is what it is, and I think if I learned anything from this, it's RS3 bosses work a certain way because of how the game works, and that's the way it is. And so skilling boss, regular boss, all, at the end of the day it's a boss. And
that's the biggest thing you walk away from with this then on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is one of those times where I wish we had some kind of a tile marker option, because I think if we could mark, because the way that the explosions work, because the only stuff that you would need to really watch for is the explosions during the Rot and Suffer, and potentially the ox that spawn in once every 2 minutes, right? Which you could have a partner take care of, or even if you were solo, you would just have to you would have to find those. But if you had tile markers, there are tiles that the same tiles will be safe every time, in every Rot and Suffer, in every configuration of the boss. And I feel like if we had a way to just you go to these rocks, for this group of 3 or 4 rocks, this tile in the middle is safe. When you hear Rot and Suffer, you walk to the tile marker, right? In theory, that should work. But it's just a matter of we don't really have
finding the tile and being a way to convey that out. Yeah, and
see, in old school, you mark it, you put a color on it.
Yeah, and see, credit to you for realizing that, because I thought that was random. But okay.
No, the rocks are in the exact same places every time.
Okay.
At least as far as I'm aware, it seems because I go to the same rocks every time and they're right. I feel like I'm doing the same exact pattern, so I think they're the same.
You think that would help, Janice, if you knew where the safe spot was?
I mean, yeah, it would help. It would help.
There is on the left,
if I could memorize a pattern, but I'm still I'm still a supporting role. Because of that agility, quick time,
and see, that's
the quick time thing is awful. Yeah,
and because of how the boss is built, I don't think you can go into it with one person being a supporting role.
I know.
I mean, he could just cleanse, but the issue is the stacks, which again we'll get to mechanics.
Yeah. The other thing that will appear is that the boss will mention her children at some point in time. At this point, feline axe will appear, and all you have to do is double click on them, and they will disappear, assuming you have the moonstone shards in your inventory. Those are the 3 special attacks that the boss can do. And you mentioned in particular the mechanics in terms of what actually kills you and brings you down. So what did you want to go into that with that taxi in particular? Because we're here, we can do that now.
Just so again, the actual gameplay loop is cleanse shards, mine shards, chuck shards at boss until boss dies, right? Like that's the goal. And the special attacks all just do damage to you. You drop to 0 health, you're out, like any other boss. There's another damage source that's your corruption stacks. Anytime you get hit by a mechanic, you get a number of corruption stacks. Anytime you cleanse corruption off of a rock, you get corruption stacks. The corruption stacks deal damage over time to you. That scales obviously based off the number of stacks, and the damage is doubled if you're in front of the Moonstone Barrier or if you have not repaired the Moonstone Barrier. So you take significantly less chip damage if you're standing behind it, basically. And that corruption stacks, those go away for every rock you chuck at the boss during the like Ictharian special button phase where you chuck rock for more damage. And so, like, if you mine all your rocks and then you like chuck, like, I typically have no corruption. When I did this the first time in like the quest, the tutorial, I got like 100 corruption stacks because I had no idea what I was doing. I was getting hit by all the mechanics. But if you avoid the mechanics, you get very few stacks. You take very, very little chip damage.
Yeah.
And so, especially if you're standing behind the barrier and you keep the barrier even a little bit repaired, 10% is the same as 100% in terms of blocking attacks and damage. It's just 100% will last longer until you need to repair it again, basically. But it's like the challenge for somebody in like a supporting role would be like you could have somebody who is just cleansing rocks and then another person who is mining them out. Like you could do that, but the problem is the person who is cleansing would build up more and more of those stacks because they're not removing their stacks by throwing them away.
Okay, that's
so that person. They wouldn't need. They could bring. I guess you could bring food and like eat food to heal through the dot. And then your person who's mining, you just completely ignore the corruption stacks. One person just eats through them,
right?
And cleanses, and
like it's right in front of my face. And I was just sitting here wondering a few times last night, like why did Tanis randomly die here? And I guess if he's just been doing all the cleansing, his dot's pretty high.
I never figured it out either. I couldn't figure out why I was just dying. Yeah,
like details wise, the barrier reduces all of the damage basically except for the Rotten Suffer. The Rotten Suffer just gives you more stacks if you get hit by stuff. So again, the more you get hit by, the more of these stacks you get. But also, and I think we didn't necessarily mention it, but there's 4 rocks in front of the barrier and like, I don't know, 8 or 10 or something behind it. Yep. The rocks in front of the barrier have twice as many rocks in them, give twice as many rocks at one time, and take exactly half as long to cleanse. So the rocks in front of the barrier, in theory, are much faster. The problem, you take double damage from your like corruption stacks. There are like the boss will throw blobs at you, so you have to move at least 2 tiles away every a few times a minute. And so like being up front is in theory the higher action part. I think there might be a strategy where you start out there and then when you have more corruption you back behind the barrier to like finish off mining an inventory.
Yeah, that's what
Avernix
one cycle is. That's what Avernix one cycle is, yeah.
Which I think makes a lot of sense. But like, so there's that dichotomy. And we have all approached this with completely different strategies in terms of like being in front of or behind the barrier and being like how we're dealing with like how much food we're bringing.
How we're actually killing the boss. Yeah, we should talk about that because I think that's maybe the most interesting thing about this boss is how that goes. I'm going to thank Patreon supporters first because that's a good thing to do where we're at right now. So this week I'd like to thank Alvaro L., Amos Reed, Andrew C., Arvidsel, Bladecom, Brayton K., Chilbura, Dominic R., Drama Free, Duramax, Jacob G., Guy Lafleur, Jade Gizmo, Jason S., Jesse W., Kesky, Lemon Lodge, Luminos, Mongrath, Parnassius, Ricky A., Rippeth, Robbie D., Runestar, Samuel FL, Scott DS, Shirt Pants, Sky, Tabby, Targaryen, The Naked Captain, Tevis, The Dabbin Goat, Tim, Ukulele Steve, Woody, Zad, and Zazakon. Apparently I can't follow a list this week, folks. And of course, all these people have supported us on Patreon, and if you want to be like them, you can head over to patreon.com/RSBANB and support us for as little as $1 a month. And there we have 4 tiers available to support, and at that base tier, $1 a month, you get access to the entire back catalog of monthly bits or bonus shows. Right now, Patreon members are voting on 3 for the October monthly bid. Their choices are the true nature of RuneScape 3 engagement, which when you look behind the scenes of that one, that's actually kind of spicy. It's effectively asking, is Jagex using gacha game mechanics with Treasure Hunter in certain aspects of the game? Another option is temporary game modes. And the third is what makes PVM fun, because I feel like that's been a topic that's kind of been in the forefront since Sanctum. But if you want to vote on those, you have until Sunday to do so. Patreon.com/RSBANDB. We also have a VIP tier where for $3 a month, you get a rank on Discord, access to a chat channel, and stereo versions of the podcast. And for $5 a month, you receive a shout out on the podcast each and every week and gain exclusive access to the outtakes that we use to make the clip show, plus the RSBANB update Christmas card. We also do, of course, have the experience tier, as I mentioned, but presently that's all occupied. Those folks have been finding themselves a nice little surprise in their mailbox. We'll let that arrive to a few more people, and then I'm sure they'll start posting about what exactly they received. We also send it out to hosts and producers too. Pern, have you got anything in Australia yet?
Oh, sorry, yes, I meant to tell you that. It come in on Tuesday.
All right, on.
A lovely
so,
surprise.
yes, thank you very
so the
much.
three of you guys got that without spoiling it. Was it what you were expecting?
No, totally different.
No,
Yeah, totally
I'm
different to
excited.
what I was
I'm
expecting.
deciding where it's going to go, what we're going to do with it.
And that's the benefits of being an experienced tier Patreon member. You get periodic mailouts like that. It's just that one little tier up that we also share with the hosts and producers as well. But patreon.com/RSBANB. Thanks so much for your support, everyone.
Yay!
So a myriad of ways of killing this boss. I already kind of went into my method, but I do everything north of the barrier. I repair the barrier once. I don't even go back to Iclarin's Circle after using the button. I use a barricade for that. And this has got me kill times in about the 3-minute and 30-second range.
Okay.
Yeah. Pern?
Yeah, I don't do the barrier. When it's time, I go back into Iclarin's and I just stand there and sort of cleanse that one that's sort of right there at his circle. And then when I come back later on, I can sort of mine that for the extra. My kill times are sort of the 4.5 to 5 minute mark, though.
All right.
I basically do one big hit. That leaves the boss with 2 or 3k health. Grab another couple, 3 or 4 stones and just have to throw those at him then, and he's done.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, and that's the thing that we'll mention with this is that you get a substantial damage increase up to 25% depending on how fast you are when you use the I'm going to call it Iclarin's little button, just like Iclarin's little helper.
Yeah.
It's Iclarin's little button.
They do more damage when thrown from the top, and you throw them all at once. So it's
exactly.
a significant time save and damage bonus of
One
like 50%
thing I do
extra damage.
Find is because the whole screen moves when you're jumping on those pillars. That's because sometimes you misclick and you got to sort of go back.
It's an aim labs test for sure. It's an aim labs test.
You got to get into a
one
specific cadence for it, and then it's just really, really simple
and
to
camera
do.
angle. If my camera angle's wrong, no shot. It's not happening. Made that mistake.
That's it. I found, I've sort of got the camera angle almost right at the moment, but it was, the first couple of times trying to jump, I was only getting like 10 or 15%. Now I'm sort of getting, 20%. I'm not quick enough for the 25 yet, but 20% on my last 2.
All right. How about you, Thaxi?
Interesting, because Pern, are you going about past the barrier too for a lot of your stuff? You said you are, right? Because
I do
like,
everything past
faster?
the barrier.
Yeah. So, I do things entirely different than both of these gentlemen. Because Pern, you also said that you're skipping the big blast after Eclarin things by using a power burst, right?
Yes.
I'm option 3, so Shane barricades. I started that and I'm like, I I just go to Icthar in a circle. So I'm option 3 out of these 3 things.
Oh no, for the big blood. No, so I'm talking for the 6K hit.
Oh, sure.
That one that just tracks you.
That doesn't scale with the power burst? That doesn't hit you for like 12K?
No, power burst.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, so I do that, but
for the Begone,
yeah, the Begone, yeah, I get into Ictharan's circle.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, no. So I'm definitely the lazy gamer here. Hi.
You have uncharacteristically slow reaction times too. You always say that.
I used to. Again, I find like I've been getting the 25% every time. Just like if I can see things ahead of time, it's fine. I don't react to things I'm not expecting very well. But with this, it's all rote. I hear the sound cues. I definitely use the sound cues. But I've been taking a completely different strategy for all of this. Again, for other people, I got hacked a year or 2 ago. I can't even remember at this point in the summer, right before Necromancy came out. And so I'm trying to not use a whole lot of supplies, and I'm not overloading for these, and I'm taking things a little more relaxed with my Lava Titan. Actually, we're all using different familiars too, because Shane has the Gargoyle, and Pern has the Yak. So I'm sitting back with my Lava Titan, and I also, again, because I haven't played the game this year, I'm here with my pickaxe of Earth and Song. I do have 110 mining. I got that somewhere along the grind, but I'm back here with my old pickaxe and my Elder Rune +5 on tool belt, which will be important in a second. And I'm just I stay behind the barrier. I repair it to 100% at the start. I repair it to 30% in phase 2, or when I get back down the second time. I'm consistently able to 2-cycle it, and my kill times are anywhere from 3.5 to 4.5 minutes typically.
Wow.
I stay completely behind the barrier, and I just mine the thing and avoid getting hit.
So you're getting...
Also totally worth mentioning, because if you guys have mentioned the buffs from Shadow's Grace or the mobile perk, if you don't get hit by the special attack, it does refresh your surge and dive. So I'm just using that.
Right. So you don't you might not even need that.
Yeah, if you get hit, if you fail surge or fail dive, you're in trouble. But if you don't, then yeah, I just get out of the way.
I find that so interesting that you're on par with our kill times from doing it behind the barrier.
Yeah. And that's so my first few kills I did no aura. I have completely forgot. I did remember in the lead up to the show I was double checking the math for how the rock worked to make sure that I actually understood how mining damage still functioned and what our numbers were with that. How important the crit was and what all these bonuses are actually doing, and that's again, a lot of them don't really matter. So I'm out here with my Luck of the Dwarves on. I'm not doing the Ring of Shadows. Didn't have an aura on for a lot of this. Because again, the aura is a crit chance bonus, which is nice, but if you don't crit, it just takes a little longer to mine. But I actually did a kill half an hour before the show just for kicks and giggles to see how and my plan was I'm going to buy a Terror Bird. I'm going to go with a Terror Bird because I haven't tried it with a Bob yet. And I'm going to do no gear. I'm going to bring half an inventory of swordfish.
I got that up on the video version right now,
kill.
By the way. I got that up on the video version right now, so carry on.
Yeah, so I actually didn't. I did that and I messed up mechanically a couple times and I poured it out and I'm like, wait a second, I don't think I need food. So I went back and I got rid of everything. So I have nothing equipped other than my Luck of the Dwarves because I want loot. And I have an inventory that has 15 archaeology relics in it. So I have 13 inventory spaces, no food, no prayers, no auras, no anything. I am using an Elder Rune pickaxe +5 out of my tool belt and just sanding it. And that worked fine. I stayed completely behind the barrier. I just did a mechanically clean kill, and it took exactly 5 minutes. And I think I could have done it faster. Because, again, I wasn't, clicking the rock every tick or every time the pick hit. I would just AFK mining them. Generally, the boss seems like there's no wrong answers. The mechanics, once you have your strategy down, every strategy seems to work and you can do the same thing repeatedly. But it seems like there's, the big takeaway from all this is there's a ton of ways to make this work relatively efficiently. And, just having a high mining level and an okay pickaxe and literally nothing else works oddly fine if you just do the mechanics. And so that's, I think, the biggest victory with this boss is, like, I have no idea how this is going to be, and I'm excited to try this on a lower level account at some point in the future. But, like, with at least 110 mining and an okay pickaxe, like, you can be fine. Like, you could just send this and get kill times that are not competitive but comparable to what other people are getting. And every other bonus you add on top of that, like the mining golem outfit and perks, and like a core hammer is probably a pretty big one too, and a familiar that's like all these things that are going to help. Like, they're all nice, but the boss, just like however you want to do it, it seems like it works. In front of the barrier, behind the barrier, like, it's just the balance on it seems very well done.
I wish all PVM was this accessible like that.
Well,
but maybe that
you
is
do
the
need to
difference
have the
between
reaction
skilling.
times and things, but yeah.
But that's the difference between skilling boss and PVM boss, and it's. I mean, that is great that it is that sort of accessible, that you don't have to have top level gear and everything, to get decent times and be able to do it.
We're going to be heading here for our group Ironman, I bet, for some of the drops.
I think we'll be heading here just because, yeah, I mean, the commons drop table is actually not terrible.
Which, by the way,
it's
folks,
not
you're
amazing.
looking at 4 out of the 5 people for the RSBANDB group Ironman group.
Bum, bum, bum. But, like, yeah, it's a good source probably for moonstones. It's a good source for, I mean, it gives it, like everything, an okay amount of salvage, so it's gold. And, there's some runes, nature, soul, chaos. There's some anima stones. Cannonballs are actually not bad.
Yeah.
Although
We'll get to the table
Moonstone
stuff
does.
after. Tannis, how does this make you feel? Does it make you want to give it another go, maybe, after we nail down some of the safe spots? Or what are you thinking right now after this discussion?
I'm thinking a boss is a boss is a boss.
Yeah.
I think we identified one difference, and that's something I wanted to do, was to find anything that was different and could really set this apart, and it may be as easy as the equipment and what it takes, what you need to do it, and that it's not much. This was, on the other hand, this was the one opportunity where the lead forward skillers were like, yeah, I got my outfit, and I'm going to get my aura, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And then, I mean, we heard the numbers. We heard
it's not for
it's
XP.
It's all just overkill anyway.
Yeah. And that actually goes into something else I saw this week, is that there is a portion of the skilling player base out there who feels as though this should have been more skill-like rather than, PVM-centric.
Yeah.
And are you in that camp?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
I mean, at the same time, I'm also kind of reserved to saying that this is just how bosses work in RuneScape, and maybe skilling is just a different animal, and if they're because this isn't skilling to me, like, really in any meaningful way.
Yeah, it does feel like sort of an alternative boss encounter, not actual skilling. I mean, to me, Big Game Hunter is more of a skilling boss than this is, but
really,
it's still a hell of a lot of fun. Yeah,
I strongly agree with that.
Okay, why? Convince me.
So we talked about it in pre-show a bit, and I promise not to judge not to dawdle because this is the RS3 show. But I think the comparison to the old school skilling bosses is valuable in this discussion, because it is like the old school skilling bosses are effectively mini games, relatively straightforward mini games that give rewards as like a side bonus and an acceptable, like a competitive amount of XP. This does not give a competitive amount of XP. This does not give anywhere close to like current XP rates for any of the skills, even all the skills together. Like, it just doesn't. Like, maybe compared to like RuneSpan, Runecrafting, maybe. Like, yeah, not really though. Like because everything else has such faster XP rates right now. And what this is this is a boss that you do with your skills that gives loot, and you're here for the loot, not for the skilling XP. Versus like Big Game Hunter, where you're there, it's a relatively straightforward minigame, not really a boss, right? Like it's a minigame as much as anything else, right? As opposed to what RS3 would consider a boss. And it gives rewards as the rewards are a side thing. It's a bonus. Like you get a pick, you're there for the Hunter XP, and if you happen to get one of the like dragon Maddox, like that's awesome. That's a cool drop. And I think that's the real thing, is that both this and Crosis are combat encounters. There for the loot, more than a skilling kind of mini game there to spice up an XP rate. The skilling.
Okay, I see that.
Thing.
I would feel more about
But as a skiller, I don't need that big drop. I would much rather have. Dude, throw effigies at me. Anything.
Hey, this is an effigy
related stuff.
This is for the PVMers who have skill levels. This is I agree with you. This is just another combat boss, because as much as it is a skilling boss, it's not a skilling experience. I don't think it is, right? You're there, it's you have to stay alive. It's tight. If you mess up, you're punished for it. Versus like the old school one, where if you mess up, every case of all of 3 of the bosses, you just take a little extra damage. Like, you spend some food. Like that's, and a mechanically clean kill there just means you do it without food.
But there are actual hard deaths in Zolcano and Wintertot, at least.
Yes.
So there is that compared to Crosis and Gate here.
It's a skilling method where you take damage and get some small rewards and need to be paying some attention.
Yeah.
But it is a mini game that gives XP, as opposed to a boss that gives loot.
Okay.
It is a boss that gives loot, but the boss part and the loot part are the secondary part of things other than the primary.
Okay, I can see that. And I feel like that is just something that, RS3 is going to have to set its own way on. Partially also just because the XP rates in the game are already so high compared to
inflated
compared to what old school has. So
it's
fun
different.
Yeah.
But okay, I mean, when it comes to Big Game Hunter, you don't take damage in that, right? Like you don't.
No, if you fail that, you just end the encounter.
Which to me is much more in line with what a skilling boss is. Then again, I know a boss is a boss, but it's
a lean-in hunter training method that gives some rewards.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
Yeah, that makes
more sense. I'm on your side there, Tanis, where a skilling boss should be more about the XP and that lean-in movement type thing, rather than. And I mean, as I said, I love the boss. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, of course, I do too.
It is a regular boss that you just take your mining gear to, rather than your armor and weapons.
And I think that's the distinction that was set this week in terms of what an RS3 skilling boss is. And it'll be interesting to see if they ever deviate from that. But I think the through line in this, if I'm just going to summarize everything before we move on to the XP rates, is that it's about the drops. It's not about the XP. It's got
but as a skiller, you don't really care
the loot.
about
the loot is
drops.
Yeah, and we'll see where this lands in the coming days. Like a few days ago, the RC, the Runecrafting offhand, was about 110 mil. So we'll see where they land in a few days in terms of being affordable and whatnot.
But that's also the other thing. I mean, we do have a hard cap of 200 mil in the game for a skill. If you go by levels, 110 is sort of your cap for mining. So there are people who have reached the levels that they want and don't care about the XP. They want that loot, and it's. That this is perfect for them, because then they are going for those those big wow drop rewards.
Yeah.
So we do have to look at it on both sides.
I am a person who enjoys PVM. I am 17 total levels below 110 all. Again, not intentionally. Been this way for years, or a year and a half at least. 5 of those levels are in divination, 5 of them are in crafting. And I can do this very cheaply because I'm also a person who has skilling gear but no money. This may or may not be a boss that is exactly for me, because like I don't mind the chip XP and the skills I actually need XP in.
And you're making money along the way.
I need money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I was saying. That's, that
Exactly.
maybe aimed more at your type of player than Tannis's type of player who is maximizing XP.
Right.
Yeah. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think that this boss is teaching us a lot of new things about the game this week. And the other big thing is that, like we said, we got at least 3 different ways here of killing it. I've also detailed Avernix 1 cycle method that you can find in the show notes. So there's just so many different methods that you can use that you're going to find success with and still land in that very acceptable 4-minute time range, which I also think is very wonderful as well with it. So overall, I don't think there's anything to be mad about with this boss. Like,
no.
Is there? Am I wrong in that, or am I just looking at it through rose?
I think it's going to get super boring. That's my take, is that I think it doesn't have, and maybe honestly most of our bosses, is that because they are so rotational, at least it has mechanics unlike some of like the earlier bosses, but like I think it's because it's so rote, I think it has more randomness than the other bosses have now. I think when they were released, a lot of the other bosses, because of the amount of damage we hit, varied so wildly. I think that mattered, but the damage right now is so consistent post-combat balancing when they squished the damage numbers and made crits kind of the way that they are. I really think that this may be one of the most, like, there is randomness in it, but it feels like it's going to get very rote very fast. And I do worry about that.
Yeah, and that's why we have a monthly bit as an option about, why is PVM fun? Because I have struggled to ask PVMers, why is certain things fun in game, but I never get an answer that's anything other than the drop, it seems. So I want to kind of poke into that with that monthly bit. Is it the drops? Is it the mechanics? Is it the combat behind it? What exactly makes PVM fun? And I think the skilling boss is an interesting alternate take on that. So,
and it's funny that Taxi says it like that. I mean, I like to do boss for about an hour or so I don't get overly bored. But I also like one where, okay, I can learn those mechanics and know exactly what's happening because, as I said, I'm a 2-finger typer. I don't want to be fiddling around with 5 action bars and things like that. And that's why this type of thing is perfect for me.
Like, and again, I'm so sorry for bringing up old school on the RS3 show.
No,
again,
that's
but
fine.
I can do Temperos for hours because Temperos has 4 specials that occur in a random order, and each one of them, like, it spawns fires in like locations that vary. So, like, if they're on the dock, you need to get onto to get the boat. You're gonna have to do a different thing than if they all landed on the shore, right? Like, the wave that comes, you need to make sure that like where you're positioned at the time changes how you respond to that mechanic. Like, versus this is like, walk out of circle. Okay, walk back in now and keep doing what you were doing. These
Which
are just
is more
mechanics.
like a boss than the Temperos.
Yeah. The Temperos, I am also, for the record, like a fan of things like the Arc Glacier that have that, like, well, something's going to happen. It's going to probably be different than the last time the things happened. Because it's, the order is changed, or there's some element of, like even Rax, where the, like, poison spiders land, like, there's something that you need to respond dynamically to as a mechanic versus a lot of the recent bosses where it's just step out of the thing. And again, there are exceptions to this. We have bosses that are like Zamorak or like Arc Glacier, or a lot of the Elder God Wars ones that have some element of randomness and Carapac aside, that like it is different. But I mean, lightning walls, but those don't exist, do they?
Yeah, be careful.
That's my issue with.
Yeah, I get it, and I feel like I feel like we've come back. We've come full circle. We started thinking we were going to be discussing skilling, but we're discussing PVM here. And maybe Tanis is right. A boss is a boss is a boss.
I think in this case, he's absolutely 100% hit the nail on the head.
All right. Well, on that note, I'm going to talk just briefly about the XP rates, my estimated XP rates of what we got here, assuming 4-minute kill times, 30-second looting period, and a 30-second restock. On average, you could probably expect about 100,000 crafting XP an hour. The mining XP is going to be token. Divination's about 85k. Agility's 38k. And this all just reinforces, again, you're not here for the XP. You're not. Unless you come into an instance with food and you just want to go and, chisel moonstone shards. That's about 250k XP an hour unboosted.
In mining?
Crafting.
Oh,
At least if you're at a harp, you got a pretty song to listen to.
yeah.
You're right.
Until it goes out of tune.
That's the funny thing is, you with the crafting offhand, hanging out at harps is darn similar to that.
So it just it just illustrates that again, doesn't it? About the XP. So
yeah, but you get loot, and it's a boss, so
you make
the XP
money.
is not the important thing, huh?
Yeah,
we just pound that home.
And then that's the thing. That's the other thing we do need to remember is skillers have been calling for a way to make money. Yes, you have to learn a boss mechanic, but this is a way to make money, get those skilling offhand supplies and things. So it's a very very hard. It's a hard rope to walk for the developers in this, and
yeah, and we'll see what they do, because remember they did schedule for 2025 an update to increase the profitability of skilling relative to PVM. So there's that.
And I like what they're doing with all the Masterwork stuff, where they're pulling more of the resources out of the game. I know it's not anywhere near enough, but
yeah,
it's something.
We also, I was just going to also mention the environment and the music track aside from this. We'd be remiss if we didn't highlight just the wonderful work that the environment team did on this. Just in terms, it's just grade A, like it's always been with what they've been doing over the last number of years here with this. And the music track's also interesting too. I was saying to you, Thaxi, you might be able to key up some form of a dance to this one based on what you had there.
It's nice and rhythmic. It's got the drums. It's got the I mean, it's just, I don't know. It sounds good. Yeah. They continue to release the bangers.
It's a nice background as you're fighting.
Yeah. My favorite part of the environment is that they are effectively, to make the floor look reflective, they're using that same sort of tech that the Aurora Cape uses, except now it's on the floor here. I don't know if you guys noticed that.
Oh, that it's got I did not see that it was partially transparent with an extra layer behind it.
Yeah, no, partially transparent, and if you move the camera, it changes just the way that your cape would. That's based on what's reflecting there. So, great work by the environment team on that. But let us move on to some rewards, and there's a reason that I mentioned in particular that the XP was at this point, because it's like, hey, what are we doing for XP with this boss? But there's something called the Scripture of Elidinis here.
Yeah.
17% chance to spawn a wandering soul while training any non-combat skill. Now, I'm going to assume, just for sake of argument, that it's going to be 17% chance per minute in that case. With that, you could expect about 10 per hour. It might be a bit more if it procs a lot quicker, like the Saren spirits do. But effectively what happens with the scripture is you have a chance of 1 of 4 souls appearing. There is a vengeful soul that will spawn nearby and come towards you, and if the player can avoid it for a few minutes, you can dismiss it. This will give you 10,646 XP at level 99. Of course, that scales to 120 if the skill is 120 or 110. The Mimicking Soul is a copycat soul that will spawn nearby you and copy the player's movement. So once you corner it, you can dismiss it. This grants by far the most out of any of the souls, 12,240 at level 99. There's also the Unstable Soul. This will spawn nearby but quickly teleport around. To dismiss it, you need to quickly catch it. So it's basically like a double-click Saren Spirit in that regard. This is 7,097. And then there's the Lost Soul that spawns nearby and wanders around. They say you want to give it some directions to the afterlife to dismiss it. This is effectively like a Saren Spirit, 5,323 XP. And when you average these out, they come out to about 8,300 XP per hour average. So when you factor this in, you're looking over the hour, maybe about 80 to 100k XP an hour, depending which ones you get. Maybe a bit less. If you're willing to play this game of tracking down these souls.
Yeah.
So it's what you use when you're skilling, I guess, if you don't want to use the big book. So how do you feel about that?
I don't like how they're really leaning into this, necromancy ritual mini event. It reminds me of the random event from back in the day. The XP is incredible. Don't get me wrong. That it's almost kind of nuts, which makes
when you compare it to RuneScape's.
Well, I mean, which tells me it's just gonna be nerfed anyway. But
I mean, RuneScape's is phenomenally low.
There's
the example of bad XP rate, but
there's just there's a difference between like a Saren Spirit that you just happen to see, you click on, it's a little extra something. It doesn't interrupt your skilling, versus this where, how would you not? You have to stop and get these, right? Like I don't know. I'm not a big fan of this reward really at all.
I can see
you give
how
up whatever your pocket slot is, right? So it has a cost. In addition to the cost of the pages, and then it's a matter of like, are you leaning in for it? I can't tell you the number of pages of your signet rings I have lost in Saren Spirits personally. But like, maybe I miss the things. If I'm actually AFK, then I completely, again, I'm poor.
Yeah, then there's no there's no point to using this book.
No.
Right.
If you're doing AFK or you don't want that extra level of engagement. And I 100% see that, Tanis.
Yep.
I think a great spot to be using this would probably be something at like the Dinero place, as an example. Or while training archaeology.
The thing about it, maybe archaeology, is it's a weird level of lean-in gameplay, because it is a reward for lean-in gameplay, right? Like that's... unless you're maybe going off a sound cue when they spawn or something, like, primarily it's like once every, on average, 6 minutes, but like 1 in 6 chance every minute is still like, you could go easily like 20 minutes, if you just got unlucky randomly. You could also go at 1 minute by minute, but like you roll bad a bunch of times in a row, you could have 20 minutes where this just doesn't proc. That's almost half a page, like within, and you're still like 1 in 100 times you do that interval of time, that's going to happen statistically. And so like it's almost lean out in that like it rewards you for paying attention, but you don't want to use it on something that you like. It's not going to keep me paying attention, that's not going to lead me into the gameplay anymore.
Right.
No, I would
are bad enough once a minute. Like,
yeah, I would think that a good spot would be, if you're doing rituals, you're already doing this anyway.
Yeah.
So,
archaeology is another good shout from Shane, because that's, if you're following the time sprite.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you're not, when I was doing archaeology, the time sprite didn't really bother me that much. I was just clicking. I could go and do things because, you're gonna get the relic a little bit quicker. but you're also dropping a couple of the other things that come out of there. I found that
I'm just saying if you're chasing it, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
If you're being active, if you're playing actively, then that's a good shout.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's not a lot of skills that you really do play actively these days.
And the boss does print the pages. In an hour last night, I got 14 pages.
Yeah. I got 8 in my first 5 kills, so.
Yeah.
Or 6 kills, excuse me.
I got 4 or 5 in my 5 kills.
So, they saw our concerns about other books and made the pages a little bit more common here, it seems. So there's that one. We also have another entry into the standard rare book here, which I think is, again, kind of that horizontal design, like what you were talking about, Paxi, how everything had been power creep, but now they're going in a different direction here. The Eclipsed Soul prayer, not curse, increases your crit strike chance by 4% and will heal you 10% of your max life points over 6 seconds every time you critical strike.
Yeah, it would have been nice to get a prayer out of this that, took 15 or 20% of the damage from the boss away, something like that. But anyway.
Well, I mean, you're like the crystal mask on Cross is kind of a thing where it's just like, oh hey, by the way, if you've unlocked this really obnoxious thing to unlock, bonus at boss. I mean, right?
Yeah.
I'm actually quite a fan of the prayer, and I think that was actually a conversation we were having. We've talked about this a lot, Shane, but I think we also we caught this conversation in pre-show, and I think they've been doing a really good job lately of giving parallel, trying to avoid power creep a little bit. I think they recognized that maybe during the Elder God War saga they were doing a little bit much in terms of XP rates and add-ons and damage, and they just they pumped things a little hard. And with Necromancy's release as well, I think there's a lot of examples of this.
Because you can combine this with Divine Rage, which of course increases your damage to whatever combat style you're using. Then you can combine that with whatever accuracy and other damage boosting prayer you have in the standard spellbook for whatever you're using, and you can get by and large the highest damage boost.
This stacks with those? I thought this was an alternative to.
No, you can get a 20-odd% damage boost.
So
with Divine Rage and everything else, and then you combine that with this, and you have an interesting setup, I think.
The thing that is unique about it is the crit strike chance, right?
Yeah.
I think normal spellbook needed something equivalent to Soul Split. I think there's a lot of reasons why that's something that is probably due, just because there was no reason to swap off Ancients before, either because of Soul Split or because of the damage prayers. And this seems to kind of build that, where the normal spellbook, if you're stacking specifically into crit chance, or you're Magic was for a long time had a really big bonus, and I've not kept up as much as I should with things, but I think that's still kind of the case. It's you really want to crit, and crits multiplicatively give you extra damage from other things, and there's a lot of synergy with it. And it's that 4% crit chance is pretty hefty.
Well, yeah, just look at other sources of crit chance in the game, and there's really not that many of them.
No, there's very few. I mean, this is having an extra biting 2 perk on, right? And so for builds that really want to index into crits, this could be better than some of the Ancients in some places. Again, I haven't actually done the math on this. I apologize. I am the math guy, but
No, that's okay.
In my brain, there's a world where this works. And the healing is interesting as well, because it is on overtime. So it's a little bit of a smaller heal than Soul Split necessarily. I don't know if it caps the same way Soul Split does.
Here's the thing.
It says 10% of your max life points. So
yeah, so let's just say I'm usually at 10,540. There you go. That's 1054 over 6 seconds. So you decide if that's something that you can make use of with however often you're gonna crit. I don't necessarily know how often I'm critting, but I suspect this would still come in at less healing than Soul Split does. Which
probably another. Sorry,
given typical crit chance and the styles we're using, it kind of does depend on your style. But right now, this for like, if you're hitting, you hit roughly 40 times a minute with things that could crit. It's like the similar stuff to like doing the criminal bolt math, where like the same things that can crit can also usually proc bolts. And potentially like anywhere from like very relaxed casual rotation up to like range with all the rapid fire and nonsense. You're anywhere from 20 to 40 times. So like if this and you have like a 1 in 5 chance to crit, again, you can get that up to like a 1 in 3 or even like a 1 in 2 with magic. But typically you're like a 1 in 5 chance to crit. So this will proc 4 or 5 or 6 times a minute. So you'll get Soul Split heals up to 200. That's what I meant in terms of a cap. Soul Split, no matter how much damage you deal, you will not heal more than like, I think it's 200. It's a couple hundred. So like Soul Split hitting that many times would heal you for about the same as this will. I don't know how like the randomness adds up, but we're hit so many times that I feel like, especially if you're using like range or something where you're hitting a lot, this could be significantly potentially more healing than Soul Split, as long as you're not overwriting the heal too often.
Yeah, and I also think when you combine this with the Divine Rage from Sanctum, you're looking at some of the highest damage boosts in the game. Right. I think there's a compelling case now to consider the normal prayer book, and I think that's the story at the end of this here.
When we were talking about it, and I was doing early math before it was released and people had done testing with it, it seemed to me like it was going to be roughly equivalent to like the tier 95 prayers, give or take, tier 95 99s, like with but it also has the Soul Split effect attached to it. So I mean, but again, if you need that crit bonus, if you're doing a magic build or something that has synergy with it, this might be better. But if you're not, then it's not. And I like that they're giving that situational, like you actually need to make meaningful choices with your combat decisions.
Yeah, have you looked into the new Equilibrium build since you've been back for Necromancy?
Like Equilibrium Aura?
There's a new way.
Or you mean the eruptive perk?
No, not eruptive. There's basically a way that you can do away with crits now, and apparently it's fairly competitive. I haven't tried it, but it exists.
No, I haven't heard about that.
Yeah,
I could look into it.
Yeah. But I think the story at the end of the day is that the normal spell book is now a consideration, and I think that's what we walk away from this this drop.
And that's what I was going to say, especially, again, I mean, for
if you have the money to afford the prayers.
But that's it. I mean, it's a skilling thing. So for people, who can't go and make their 50 mil an hour at the other things, and also for Slayer and things like that, this will fit in nicely with that. That sort of lean back Slayer type training and things. And it's great that they are expanding, because no one swapped out of curses. Let's be honest. But
not in
if
years.
No, that's right. But now if they're starting to do that and make you think, well, okay, this boss I'm going to use, or these creatures I'm going to use this for. But over here, this is going to give me better ways. So it's making you think again, not just, okay, best in slot. As we said with the boss, 4 people did 4 different things and all got similar results. That is fantastic.
Yeah.
If we start seeing that with the prayer books and things,
is good variety. And I think we're also going to see that when we talk about the other rewards from this. I will say, addendum to my previous note, the wiki tells me that this prayer, every time the healing procs, it cannot proc for 6 seconds. So it cannot overwrite itself, but it also cannot refresh its duration.
I think that's
so you
fair.
have to crit once the healing is done. So yeah, depending on your style, you'll likely get this heal 3 to 6 times a minute, just depending on what skills you have in your bar, which is fair. Yeah, it's probably about the same healing you'll get from Soul Split. That's reasonably where it is. It scales off of how many times you're hitting your target.
Nice.
There we go. But I think, excellent segue into
the memory Dowser.
Yeah. Can we talk about the other one? Because I think that has a stronger
I want to talk about the
here.
memory Dowser first.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah. I feel like, I was a little bit... I needed to see the tooltip on this one, and I also needed to look up the divination rifts here from when they made the changes to divination a while back. And what this offhand effectively does Is this, if you have this offhand, it kind of obsoletes, I feel, the divination relic for archaeology. Because effectively what you need to do now is that you just stand, 2 or 3 tiles away from the rift, and everything automatically within 7 tiles from you, any wisp, will be gathered to you and automatically deposited into the energy rift.
Just one. You're still only gathering from one wisp at a time. This isn't
right. But the point is that it makes, I feel, the divination relic obsolete at this point. And And I don't know if that's a direction to go for this, but I mean, have at it. It's an option instead of getting 100 odd archaeology for that relic. So maybe this is a good thing we could have if we ever go for 110 divination when that comes out, because now after the 2021 divination updates, Wisp will now only wander up to 5 tiles away from the rift. So you just stand outside of the within that 2 tile range of the I keep getting the rift and the wisp mixed up. You just stand within the 2 tiles of the rift, and this has a 7 tile radius on it. You will be able to pull from whichever wisp you want on this at this point.
Okay. So here's your counterpoint.
Okay, I've been waiting for that because I was talking about that with someone earlier this week.
The alternative divination methods, not including Hall of Memory. Don't.
No, we're not going to talk about that.
That's not for you. That was for everybody else. All of the listeners don't. Hall of Memories, I don't want to. But for turning divination at a rift, right? You've got 3. We'll call them AFK options, right? You've got the vacuum. The vacuum still does vacuum things. You just stand. You just vacuum, and that's it. You walk between rifts. And you have the turning them in with the relic, and you have this. Those are the 3 kind of endgame options that are seeming vaguely viable if you want to kind of AFK to rift. The thing that I think is maybe being overlooked is the question of what this actually gives you. I think that the ability to gather wisps from 7 tiles away and while standing within 2 tiles of rift, the distances I don't think are actually all that important, because you're losing 1 or 2 ticks while you're traveling between them. And realistically, you should be using a Prism of Dowsing. If you're trying to min-max to some level, a Prism of Dowsing will pull the wisps to you anyways. So you're never more than 1 tick off from siphoning anything. The interesting parts of this is the energy duration to springs and the chance to receive double memories, because again, you already have 2 other methods that can auto-deposit. That doesn't seem like it's a change to me. I guess you will never get an inventory that's full. The double memories is just a straight-up XP buff, and the second to energy spring. But otherwise, I mean, you still need 80 divination to use it, which, I mean, you need 80 divination for anything anyways, so that's not all that much XP, but it's just a matter of,
It's about the kind of divination experience you want to have then. And I say experience in terms of, how you're going to play the skill, not necessarily the XP rate that you get.
Yeah, and I put away, has anybody LE'd this week? Hold on, let me look. What's the actual price on this doing right now? Dowser. Memory Dowser.
Do we trust the le.gg website?
When I have no other option, yes. Currently, there's things on here that are saying roughly 350 to 400 mil right now. So again, at least that will probably go down, but you're spending some, 100 to whatever it ends up being, hundreds of mil for an XP boost, which of course people have that kind of money. It's something that you should use. I just don't think there's a reason not to use it, which does effectively kill the relic.
Yeah.
But if you don't have the money, the relic is still an option. The relic, I don't think is... It feels very, very weird to me to tie divination quality of life to being either very high-level invention or very high-level archaeology. You know? Like, that to me... Like, yes, those other two methods... Like, that's the issue that I have with this, is that this one skill feels awful to train. Like, I remember training divination on my alts and, like, my fresh start account and being like, oh no. No.
Yeah, we question
miserable.
if that skill should exist. It's right up there with Hunter.
I like it. It's just there.
This is a conversation
nice
we can have
relaxing.
another day. Like, I think again, no, doesn't matter. But like, in terms of doing it efficiently at a high level, you have to have other skills. And this just says, nah.
Right.
You don't have to.
And you also do need 86 invention for the relic, in addition to whatever level the vacuum unlocks at. So.
Oh, I forgot about that. Oh, the vacuum's high as well. It's, I think 90s. If not 102, maybe.
Right. So the entry then to this is 400 mil. So maybe this replaces those, but the other ones, still have their unique playstyle associated with it. Maybe I was a little bit too quick to pronounce the death of divine conversion, but Tanis, do you see yourself using this, the Dowser?
No.
Really?
No. Well, I don't have. I mean, I know you say like we all have that kind of money, but I don't have that kind of money. Plus, I mean, I don't feel like the relic is dead. I mean,
it still does the thing.
Yeah, it I don't know.
Okay. I guess I should clarify. If you're min-maxing and you had infinite resources, this is the thing that you would use to train, I think.
Yeah.
Because of the duration and the extra memories that are attached to it, distance stuff notwithstanding.
Okay, that's a good way of putting it then.
It's like, it is a buff to divination XP rates. It is beyond just being a quality of life thing about, like, technically you move less, but you already don't really move a lot, especially if you're using prisms. This is just an XP buff.
All right. Well, let's talk about the Runic Attuner then, which was the other one that we were looking at, the other offhand for Runecrafting here. We actually did some digging before the show began here to see if we could find a video of how this works, because we don't...
How does this work?
We don't exactly have this, but it attunes itself to a random runecrafting altar when crafting runes. It can stay attuned to that altar. It doesn't necessarily move, and every time you craft, it gains 1 energy. Every 5 energy gives a 50% boost to the number of runes crafted. At 10 energy, it can teleport you to an attuned altar. Every 25, it will guarantee 1 to 4 magical thread. And at 50, the runecrafting XP bonus increases from 300 to 25%. And with at least 20 energy, higher chance to attune to a higher level altar. That happens again at 40 energy. And what we were wondering is, does this drop off if you unequip it? Does it drop off over time? And effectively what happens is you count up to 50 and then it resets and you start again.
So the stacks are stored on the item infinitely forever.
I like this one.
Ooh, why?
Because, like I told you when this came out, I like the idea of hopping runecrafting altars. Just, I guess, to spice up the training and the extra little benefits that it brings along the way. But I guess you're kind of out of luck if it is going to give you anything but soul or blood for those last few. Though there's a higher chance of giving those. We don't know what that is.
Yeah, I mean, the tooltip or the thing on it says, with at least 20 energy, increased chance to attune to higher level altar, with at least 48 energy, increased chance to attune to higher level altar. So even if those were mostly guaranteed, it's like, my issue with this is that it just seems like a straight nerf across the board. So I think what it does, right, is it gives an alternative training method that has maybe comparable XP. where you get a variety of runes. Like, if I was playing on an Iron Man account and I was able to get my hands on one of these, I would be over the moon because I need to make a ton of runes. I guess I could just buy a ton of runes. Maybe it would be faster to spend gold. But, like, if I was runecrafting and I needed to buy a bunch of runes, like, maybe that's... Or if you just need if you're somebody who just... They really like the lean-in gameplay side of things and they want a lean-in runecrafting, because right now your options are, like, Abyss or, you know... soul runecrafting, and that's the lean-in options. It's just repetitive, and you get your XP rates from go fast, press big button, press button many time good.
And Demonic Skull also factors into the XP rates for regular runecrafting as well.
Especially as I come to find out now that runecrafting, like, the pouches fill automatically. Man, let me tell you, I had this whole, like, 17-button combination to, like, load a preset 3 times, fill all of my bags. Like, I had a full action bar that was just for runecrafting, where I pressed all of the buttons, and I could reload all of my pouches and the divination and the runecrafting, like, suit body, and, like, get a full, like, 80 some essence on board in the space of, like, 5 seconds by hitting, like, all of these inputs at once.
Yeah, you just gotta press one button now.
And now it's literally, you can right-click the bank. You don't even need to press the button. You can right-click the bank and it'll do it for you, which is awesome. Significant quality of life improvement. But, like, the engagement of runecrafting at a high level is no, there's none. And so this does give you that, like, change of pace interest. It's a good way to use up, like, those Wicked Hood charges we have thousands of sitting in the bank.
That's how you use this, honestly, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Or, like, you could continue to go through the Abyss, you just wouldn't get the Abyss XP. And I do wonder if going through the Abyss still gives you a chance at Thread, because that's my biggest issue with this, is that if I'm runecrafting at an altar, I want money. Like, soul runecrafting maybe aside, like, if I'm doing, like, blood runecrafting, or if I'm trying to actually go to altars, I want money. That's the point of doing that to my brain, is it's good money. Same thing with, like, impure essence crafting in the City of Like, and what this does is it effectively says, no, you're gonna make cheap runes to some amount of cheap runes. And then, as a second corollary to that, like, if you're not going through the Abyss every time, 1 to 4, on average, the Abyss gives a magical thread every 400 to 440 essence used, according to the wiki. Sounds like reasonable math. That's about 5 trips. So you're getting, in the course of 50 trips to an altar, you'd get 10 thread. With this, over the course of 50 trips to an altar, you're getting 2 to 8 thread. So it's significantly less thread, significantly less high-value runes. And the XP is...
It's 50% less than the Abyss. 250% Abyss regular, 350 with Demonic Skull. So this is right in the middle of that.
I mean, it is close to Abyss level XP when you factor in the fact that you also get the, like, 2,500% every 50. So you divide that out by 50 and it becomes 350, I think. If you divide 2,500, it becomes, on average, you do 50, you get 350% XP. So the XP rates per essence used are comparable, but you're doing it in an altar that gives less experience. Like, if you're doing this at the air altar, getting 350% experience is going to give you way less than doing it at the blood altar.
Whoop-de-doo.
So, but, like, and yes, that 50 energy is almost certainly going to be at some place like the Blood Altar, so that XP would get spread out. And like, the rates are probably similar-ish, is what it seems like. And the number of runes you craft is going to be marginally 10% more. You're going to get 10% more runes, 10% less thread. If you can use it while going through the Abyss, then I guess that's fine. You just go to a different altar out of the Abyss every time. And maybe that's the way to do it in terms of, like, the actual money side of things. But this seems like it's not significantly better than the ways we had to train in crafting.
Right, and that's the point.
Money,
right, and that's the point. And that's what I get to with this is that, you know, are people going to be enthused and encouraged to go out and pick up these offhands? Because if you compare these, like if you compare these to the Core Hammer and the Fire Torch from Croesus, those are in a league of their own. So they're still very much S tier in terms of skilling offhands. I think those two.
Yeah. And they give buffs you don't get elsewhere.
And these
there's
ones
nothing
are,
else that you would replace them with.
below that. So it's like, okay, these are, two of the key rewards from this boss. How are these going to hold up in 6 months? Is my question.
My issue with the Runic Attuner, I actually don't mind the memory Dowser because it is just you get more enriched things. While holding this, doing whatever the heck you're already doing, you get more enriched nodes. It's just more XP. Great. This, if I would just wanted to do my other runecrafting training, if I wanted to train, obviously, by just going and crafting blood runes, this doesn't do anything. This is just a fancy offhand. It looks pretty. It is its own training method.
You are leaning
and if you're
into
not
that.
doing that training method, garbage useless. Completely, it's just a pretty rock.
And is that what a skilling offhand?
And
And this is the big question, I think, more so with this one, less with the divination one. Is this the spot to be adding new style training methods to the game, or should that come in some other way? And should the offense be more novel like the Fire Torch and Core Hammer were? Tanis, Pernasius, any of you, am I off base in that, or what do you guys think?
No, I mean, one of the things that stood out to me, especially with these, is it seems to work so much different than the previous offhands. It's just in a different realm. It's hard to even compare them.
Even the archaeology and hunter ones use the same training methods. These are new training methods.
Yeah.
This one in particular.
Yeah, it's like crafting and
yes.
Oh, you mean
exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Div one
all of the other
ones.
All of the other ones are either a little quality of life or a little buff. Like the Core Hammer, just a little buff. And yes, you get arrow tips, but all the other ones they're not an entire new training method in themselves. And that's where I think these kind of jump the shark. And is that this is effectively a new runecrafting training method. It's trying to make maybe something closer to the intended method more viable, both of them, I guess. But it's the crafting one, it just it makes quality of life. It allows you to use the harps at any time. It gives you a storage for gems. It's they're, little quality of life things and then a small buff, little marginal XP buff.
Yeah.
They don't create.
And see, that's the question. Is that what this should have been for runecrafting? Maybe. But I mean, I still think it's an interesting thing to have, but there's those questions on the side still. I'd be interested to hear what the folks listening on the other side think of this.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that it is random, the fact that you can't use it at the necromancy altars, I mean, I think they would have been far better off having an extra 5% runes created, or a chance at, an extra, every now and then, all of a sudden you get, 50% more runes, something like that. But as Thaxi was saying, I mean, the fact that it's random, you might get unlucky, hit your 50, and you're doing air or mind runes. You've got an increased chance if you've got 40 energy, but that's not a guaranteed chance.
And that's 20% of the time.
Exactly. I mean, I didn't realize it was randomly attuned. So
yeah,
you're gonna make water runes and you're gonna like it.
Exactly.
If it wasn't random, it would be dope.
Yeah.
Yes.
Actually, it would just straight up be, congratulations, you get a little buff. You get 10% extra runes. Yeah. You get some thread if you don't go through the abyss, or maybe you get some extra thread if you do, and you get a little bit extra runecrafting XP. You get 10% extra runecraft. That's what the 50 bonus line is you get 10% extra runes, you get 10% extra XP, and you get 10 or some extra thread. That's what this would do if you could just go to the altar of your choice.
Exactly.
And that would probably be fine. That would have been acceptable.
Yeah.
I still think I like this one more than the divination one, though. Maybe that's just my playstyle, because I like my farming runs around them like that. I don't do a farming run in the same way.
Yeah, I mean,
if we can't pull one of these for you for the group Iron Man.
I'm someone who does make all my own runes, but I mean, I'm not going to be happy if my and again, I mean, now that I have 200 mil, it doesn't worry me the XP rates. But
did I just sign up to be? I think I know what happened here. I just think I signed up to be the Runecrafter for the group Iron Man.
Only if we get one of these, Shane. We have to remember how deep this is locked behind quests. The number of quests you got to do to get here.
No, I feel like you guys would assign me. You would assign me to Runecrafting or something like that if the stores were.
We're assigning you to farming, Shane.
No, Shane's banned from farming.
We'll talk later.
But no, it's interesting, but I think they could have done a lot better and made it more useful mainstream.
Okay. I think that's a good point to leave that one on. We also have the Latent Offerings, which infuse the amulet that came from the quest, interestingly enough. And all these do, and this is another interesting take, they seem to be in with these hot takes in this drop table and the rewards here. It works for fletching and crafting. Each of them have a specific set of materials you need to make either the Amulet of Artisan's Offering or the Amulet of Fletching's Offering. But when you use them, items created are automatically sacrificed in an afterlife offering, and this gives you an extra 10% crafting XP. And the exact same thing for fletching. It has 1,000 charges added, and you need to recharge it with moonstone dust at a rate of 10 charges per dust.
So, this is a rich person problem.
Mm-hmm. Carry on.
That's all I got.
Okay.
No, that's the end of it. I mean, all of the things that you destroy with this, if we didn't have presets, presets destroy the utility of these items to me. Because if I want to if I wanted to not care about the products, if I wanted to have a clean inventory afterwards, or I guess if I had stackable things creating non-stackable products, maybe? I'm trying to think of what that would be. There might be some combination of items where having them automatically destroyed is really good. But for everything else, old school, this would matter because you can't, keybind, deposit all of the things I've made and withdraw me a full new set of materials. We can just do that. I can open my bank, press 1, and be done with it.
Right,
so
and
the
is it worth...
isn't helpful.
So the question...
cost of money.
Right, so the question then becomes, is the extra 10% XP worth giving up the invention materials to disassemble it, the value to alkit within one of your machines, or just to flat up sell them on the GE?
If you are just cutting dragonstones and you hate cutting dragonstones and want to, instead of throwing 40 mil at the problem, throw 220 mil at the problem, you can use this necklace to be done 9% sooner. For the cost of 180 mil. Per, how many XP is that? What did I do this math for? How much crafting XP am I short? 12 mil crafting XP. It's not ideal. This is I want to spend an extra 10 or 20 or 30 GP per XP. Maybe a little less if you're fletching bows. But then you're fletching bows. Maybe if you're making broad arrows. Maybe if you're making broad arrows and don't care about the parts that they deconstruct into.
I just see it as a way to get a little bit
problem.
of extra XP if you don't have an invention unlocked, really. That's what it boils down to. Because you can always, better disassemble things for invention, high alch them, or sell them. And if you don't want to do those first two and you don't have an invention unlocked, well, here you go. I think that's where this sits.
Who is in that position? What snowflake account has put themselves there and why?
This moonstone dust that you need to charge it up. I mean, with the amount of moonstones that are now starting to come in through the bosses,
it's going to be expensive.
Well, that's it though. I mean, the moonstone dust is not.
It drops moonstone dust too.
It does.
That's right.
It does.
But it's not. You don't grind moonstones to make the moonstone dust. It's only done as a drop.
You can.
You can also use the moonstone dust to turn it into an uncut moonstone, like you do with onyx.
That's right. But you can't use.
You can't go the other way around.
That's right. You can't cut your moonstone and then say, okay, I'm going to grind it into dust to charge these up now. Well, I would have liked to have seen another use for, because moonstone, once you've done your couple of jewelry items that it has, there's not a lot of use for moonstones. Like with onyx, at least you can make onyx bolt tips and things like that. And, we're going to be making moonstone bolt tips.
Well, it's still very early on.
Let's do some quick.
This would have been some quick math. Moonstone. Yeah.
Because these amulets, in addition to the cost of alching or selling the thing or deconstructing, whatever, the thing that you're making, each charge the amulet uses a charge for every action you do. So maybe if you're making black dragon hide bodies or something that gives a lot of. But again, if you're doing that, you're getting less XP than doing something that would be moonstone dust right now is 22,000 each. If that drops 50%, this is still 1,000 gold. If it's half the current cost, it is 1,000 gold per thing that this destroys, that you spend. So if you're doing something like cutting dragon stones, even with bonus experience and stuff, this is still 5 to 10 GP per XP on top of the destruction of the thing.
I don't think anybody would use it for cutting dragon stones, though.
But why
I feel
would
like that's the extreme end of it.
But diamonds aren't much better. Actually no, diamonds are significantly cheaper. But you're spending 1,000 gold per thing you destroy, and then the XP rate, why would you do that? Versus
it's 10%. You have a higher. Okay, let's put it this way: you have a better chance of making the money in the interim, buying a bond and buying treasure hunter keys and getting bonus XP stars to double your XP instead of 10%.
Okay, the treasure hunter argument's ridiculous here. I don't know where you're going with that. But no. Think about this. If dragonstones are 550 XP per hour, and you're doing anything else, right? Making black or making royal dragonhead bodies is 450. Making battle staves is up to 300. Making cutting diamonds is 450, right? Say you use this with the diamonds. Technically, yes, the GP per hour is probably similar. I think you're still spending more because it's still 5 GP for. Currently it's 10 GP per decon for DP per XP for just the destruction on top of the cost of the diamond. You're spending more for a lower XP per hour. You would never use this unless you had tons of money and didn't care the cost and just wanted the skilling done as fast as possible. That's the only use case where this
case for it, you think?
There's no other case where you could do a cheaper method, but then you're spending more money. And if you're spending the same GP per XP, why not do the faster XP per hour method anyways? You're not actually getting extra XP from the 10% XP if you're doing that. Maybe there's some singular niche thing that I'm completely forgetting about. But I've looked at crafting XP rates recently, and there's just all of them are either high GP per hour or more than 20% less. But this costs so much that you're getting up to the same cost as doing the fast methods. So there's no point in doing a cheap method with this.
I don't understand this reward. I don't understand this.
This reward is for the person who has 80 bill, either for merching or because they really like bossing or because they've spent 20,000 years mining and creating masterwork armor. We know there's people out there who just have money to burn or big credit cards and money to burn. And they're just I am willing to pay 10 times the current value because the difference between 200 mil and a bill is not significant for me if I reach my end goal faster. People who just hate skilling and just have money to throw at things could use this necklace. But it seems so ridiculous to me.
All right, forget it. Let's move on to the rest of the drop table.
Sorry,
No,
if you were at all excited about this,
I wasn't excited about this. I got one and it's sitting in my bank. I was wondering what to do with it. I'm just going to sell it after the show is done, for whatever it's worth.
I'm sorry, Shane. I
No, I wasn't looking forward to this one. I was looking forward.
Lord.
I was looking for forward to the Runic Attuner. Out of all of these, the prayer surprised me and the book surprised me.
Then I was just talking about the necklace. The
Runic
okay.
Attuner.
I mean,
yeah.
If you want to use that, go for it. I wasn't talking about the Runic Attuner.
No. Yeah. I know we're talking about the necklace.
Okay.
Very quickly before we wrap up here, the rest of the drop table. Thumbs up, thumbs down.
You tell us, what's your average kill loot, Ben? Do you think it's mine were 400, 500k probably?
I feel like this is less than Sanctum and Carapac is right now. That's where I've been the most. Also, less than Razil still.
I guess just in terms of the comments, when you've been getting comment drops, how much money are you getting on a kill? Would you say?
I'd say probably in that 200 to 400k range.
Okay, so we're looking. I mean, if you're doing 12 kills an hour, we're looking 4 mil an hour, 4-5 mil in just the commons. Tight, considering you're also getting some XP for doing it as a lean-in method. It's all right.
Yeah. Battle staves, blue dragon hides, cannonballs. Weirdly.
Yeah.
Crystal keys. Lots of.
I think we've just accepted that.
Yeah, lots of huge blunted rune salvage, though. I have seen that in my bank quite a bit.
Yeah.
And on the rune table, chaos runes, nature runes, and soul runes.
Yeah.
And again, they do drop potions of super energy and the prayer renewals.
Yeah, that is good.
But again, 2 dose. Just make them 3 dose because that's what goes into our potions.
Otherwise, you can decant that easily.
I know, but still, just make it 3 so they.
You know, one thing that did surprise me on the drop table was the Wurgali seed.
Why? Yeah.
Because I have never thought of that as a primary seed that I would farm or is used that often. So. And the interesting part about that is that if we look at Wurgali and what that goes into, the Wurgali incense sticks or the crafting, fletching, and runecrafting potions.
I mean,
which those potions tie into that boss.
That as a from an Iron Man angle, that makes sense that those drop from here. What do the Wurgali incense sticks do?
I couldn't tell you. Let's have a look at that. You go with an accursed maple incense stick.
It's a fletching bonus. Chance to create strung instead of unstrung bows.
Okay.
So again, ties in with the offhand.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. No, because I got
the skilling boss, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, the amulet I was thinking of. Yeah. But then you destroy it anyway, so it doesn't.
I mean, they're not they're not useless. It just surprised me.
Right?
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know. I mean,
I think it's not too bad.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. It makes sense as a drop from this boss. If you're going to have a drop from anywhere.
This drop table is not going to compare to the top PVM encounters out there. It's not broken like Croesus was when that arrived, I don't think either. And for that reason, I think it's probably at the right spot. We'll have to, of course, wait and see how this lands in a few weeks' time once the huge rush of people doing the boss stops. Mm-hmm. But other things on here, Mortmire fungi.
Always handy.
Catalytic anima stones. I already mentioned the uncharged battle staves, but it also has the option to drop fire and water battle staves too. So,
great to throw into your invention machine to break down for a bit of GP.
I mean, overall, like, I think overall where we're at on this boss, I think it's been a good week for RuneScape 3.
Yeah.
In terms of a skilling boss and a launch. I know there had been some concerns about, various methods to kill it that have been hot-fixed, and more that will be fixed in that coming Monday that will invalidate a lot of the early quote-unquote guides out there. But aside from that, how do we all feel as we're about to wrap this up? Tanis, we'll start with you since we started with you earlier in the show.
Yeah, I don't think this is really going to change anything in my skilling meta, but I think it's a good, it's good for the game. It's a good addition to the game. People like their bosses, and this is another boss.
All right, fair enough, Burn.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy it. It's a fun boss to do. I mean, it's hard for me to sort of judge XP rates, obviously, because I am 200 mil all. But the rewards are nice. It's fun to do. It was fun to sort of learn, and now I just got to get better at it. And I think they did a decent job. It is, as we were saying before, is it a real skilling boss? For RS3, yes, but compared to other games, maybe not. But overall, no problems at all. Again, 4.5 out of 5.
Yeah, and I'll say the same thing too. Is that I feel like this is something I can definitely get into a flow with, and I don't necessarily know how long it will hold my attention because there's other PVM things I'd like to work on, but I do consider it that, and it's something that I think is just going to be, nice to relax with and wind down after, I've further refined the methods associated with it. And I mean, if we can pull an offhand or two before they drop too much, I think that's going to be the story and the thing I'm going to walk away with.
And it's not overly complicated.
No,
so, you don't have to be top tier. I mean, mid-level.
As we showed, 3-4 different ways of doing it that are all, almost equally effective. How about you, Thaxi?
Yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed playing it. I think I'm going to be playing a good bit more of it just because of where I'm at in the game right now. Probably. I think I like what they did with the drop table on it. I think we're going to have to see how things kind of land, but I like, the offhands, we'll see kind of what those turn into, but I think, the scripture probably replaces, in terms of like best in slot for skilling, it's probably best in slot for a lot.
Yeah.
Bridge of the Gods is your questionable alternative, but there's a lot of places where that is maybe the option is you just pay a G. Right now, the pages are about 1 GP per XP. I wonder if those are going to go up because people are just going to be wanting to use it, and it's just part of their skilling stuff. The prayer codex is good. I think good week. Boss is fun, and boss is oddly accessible in that there's just a hard way to do it wrong, and everybody can just kind of send it and find a thing that works for them and settle into whatever routine that's going to be for them. I think the kill times this week have shown that. It's like everybody's like, I'm having trouble lowering my kill times. Well, everybody's doing completely different things. So yeah, people are getting different kill times, and but it's working for me, so I don't want to change it. And that's a cool problem to have in my brain. I think they did a good job with it. And again, of course, environment and music and it's good content.
Yeah. I
I
think that avoids the biggest pitfall. The worst thing I would have wanted to see this week was an absolutely horrid community reaction to the point that they just don't want to do another skilling boss ever again. I'd like to get us to a point where we have more skilling bosses than old school.
Or at least the same amount.
Yeah.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah.
I mean, Guardians of the Rift, I mean, Is it a mini game? Is it a skilling boss? Like they're a few ahead of us.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like Giant's Foundry. I mean, they've got a lot that's like that they're just kind of sneaking, skilling.
You're speaking words that people might not know, and that's why it's a good time for us to move to what we have been doing. And I will start off with that this week. Aside from the skilling boss, I have had to figure out how to split the time between both games, because this week on Old School, we actually got Varlamore Part 2, which brings, interestingly enough, and Tanis, you're actually gonna like this, another reason for you to start up that Old School account, maybe. Though I say that with us being committed to Group Iron Man now, but it's nothing to say you can't do both on the side. There's a new Slayer dungeon there.
Cool.
And it is a area expansion, as you would expect an area expansion to be. Very traditional in that regard. 4 new quests that we're going to be going through next week on OSRS Update. This week it's going to be most of the content, including the new group boss, Huikodal, the Agility course, the Slayer Cave, and, of course, Mastering Mixology, a new herb lore activity that doesn't require herbs. So that's been a fun little thing to go through and try and figure out the best way to take part in that mini game. So it's just so interesting all the time comparing both games, and it was weird that both games had very big key launches this week. So but Sirion and I will be talking about all of that and more on OSRS Update this week, and we'll bring you along for that and ruffle some feathers as we have been doing on that show. We are apparently in the minority that we do not like sailing, and that we also feel that the Rathma boss, if you know what that is, bless your heart, should be a thing in the game. So yeah, it's fun. It's a fun and interesting dynamic over there, the back and forth with the community and all the stuff with the polls and whatnot. But that's been that. In addition to the into the skilling boss here, Pernasius, anything you'd like to add?
No, just really doing the boss, chasing the shards actually for the Divine Moon Guard and Lantern Overrides.
Oh, I finished that yesterday.
Yeah, I've only got one more to go, and it's like a 7-day. You get one for login, so I've got 7 of 8. So that was done. Yeah, just I had a few family things the last week or so. So yeah, just really the boss.
All right, Tanis, anything to add?
Just trying to get those shards. I'm doing the same thing. So I got my gathering and combat and the quest. And...
Support, just go sit on the bike.
Oh, right.
Okay, that's a good one. Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, I was hoping
But you can only use those exercise bikes for a limited amount of time, and then you're done.
Go sit on specifically the wrong bike.
Oh, I just AFK. I just sat on the bike and just left it there for 3 hours and got the shard.
Yeah, also the best way to get the agility pet, for the record. Once you use it, it's gone.
Yeah.
And if you're still chasing rocks, your golden rocks and strange rocks, they drop in about 5 minutes there too.
I gave up on that. I don't do that anymore. I don't. It's just one of those pieces of content that I've just signed off on, like so many other things in the game. But you wanted me to specifically include this segment, Thaxi, because
I did. I said it. I've been away from the game for a long time. I did every single quest released this year in the last 3 days, all 5 of them, but all of them, and did getting back into things because again, I logged in for April Fools because I wanted the bench sitting cape, and I logged in for Pride because yay Pride, and I might have logged in once at the start of the year briefly. Life has been busy. I just finished moving across the country. Everything is going mad, and I'm really enjoying Guild Wars 2, which we'll get to in a second. But I did a bunch of catching up this week. I did my normal mode Sanctum kills. I got my Reaper crew back. I got my Taskmaster back from doing the Underworld tasks. And I'm working through upgrading my pickaxe to be better than it currently is. Whoops. Because looking at those stats, that is a significant upgrade. So that's, excited for that. And then we've got the like Zorgoth ring to upgrade. And eventually I'm realizing that they once again locked Master Quest Cape behind not just 120 in Necromancy with the Owl Quest, but also like a 6-week grind for talking to Dwarf Bro on Wednesdays.
Yep.
So I gotta like
that bothered people when that came out.
I want my cape back. So I've been doing just some odds and ends, just like lore book hunting and that kind of stuff. The game fun. It
warm
does
up for
kinda
Group
hurt.
Iron Man, right?
That's the thing. It kind of hurts me back on my account and not like I don't have mage gear. I just don't. Like I'll buy a set of something at some point, but like, and I don't need it. To be clear, I don't need it. I have a set, sets of ranged gear still that's good. I've got a functional set of just base masterwork and a lot of EKS gear, and my necromancy gear is obviously because it's all made. I'm still using the tier 90 stuff. I haven't had the money to purchase better, but I like. It kind of hurts to just look at the bank and see all of the things that I'm missing and all of the giant stacks of consumables that I'm like, I'm never gonna have to worry about these again, and like pre-prepped like mats for skilling stuff that I now need to go and rebuy, and it's a little bit rough, and I'm really
and we should say that happened
to...
because your account got cleaned a year and a bit ago.
Yep, like I mentioned, and so I'm really looking forward to Group Ironman because it's been really good to get back into the game, and like I'm looking forward to having an account where I don't have that kind of baggage that's sitting with me,
And it's this group.
And I like the company.
Whenever you think of that, though, your RuneScape account being hacked, always remember, I actually had my real life bank hacked and $25,000 of real money stolen. So that'll make you feel better.
Yeah, cheers to that. I mean, sorry, but
I can laugh about it now, but yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. Like the account's still here, all the upgrades and levels and everything, and it's still me, but it feels different to play. So I'm looking forward to Group Ironman. I'm looking forward to having a new account to play on, and I'm kind of getting the RuneScape itch, So I'm so excited to see how so much content holds up on a second playthrough on a lower level account. This is round 4 of doing that, I suppose, but we're doing it again, this time with company.
This will be my third-ish time. You could, factor in fresh start, but also the skilling pier on it when we do that. I know, Tanis, you have junior. I don't know how far you went with that.
Well, I mean, I got like 1099.
Oh, wow, okay. So pretty far.
Pretty far.
Yeah.
And Pern, of course, has his Iron Man. Yeah, so you'll hear more about that as we get closer and we know what the date looks like for when that'll be launching. But we do have some achievements as well. This week we have Atreus with 99 Constitution on the 25th, Data Engineer with 200 million Strength on the 24th. Continuing on the 24th, we have Edict with 99 Smithing and Matt258 with 200 mil Prayer. On the 23rd, we have Highcliff with 200 mil Strength. And on the 21st, we have Daydreamer with 120 Herblore, Highcliff with 200 mil Attack, One Chunk Man with 99 Farming on the 20th, Totally with 120 Necromancy also on the 20th, and Pero Picante with 99 Defense on the 19th. Congratulations, everyone.
Well done, all.
Nice.
And One Chunk, wasn't it used to be One Chunk Monk?
It says One Chunk Man.
Yeah, no, I just.
What is One Chunk Monk?
I thought that was just the name I remember that we used to read out, but now all of a sudden it's changed. I don't know if it's a new account.
Maybe it did change. Maybe it did change
his name. Yeah,
let us know.
System.
Yeah.
All right, what are we doing for pick of the week?
Let's do Guild Wars because I think this is my first show back in a good while, and I don't think we've talked about it before.
Yeah, I think you were last on actually for the April Fool's episode.
That would make sense timeline-wise and gameplay-wise, yep. But yeah, I mean, it's another MMO. That's, I mean, similar and different in a lot of ways. Very, very, where RuneScape is very, I want to say, linear progression doesn't feel correct, but given all of the things we have talked about over all of these years. But RuneScape is very much, you set a goal and you work towards it. And Guild Wars is very much all like, the game is just kind of there. It's no subscription. And the base game is free and is still like the content you are supposed to play first, even 10 years later. And then all of the expansions are horizontal. So once you're at max level, that's it. Like you level up to max in the base game with an account and character, and that takes a few days, or you can do it in seconds. If you purchase any expansions, they'll give you a booster to instantly get you to max level, and then you just go off with expansion stuff. But it's like the older expansions, you can buy the first 2 for like $15, I think. It's some ridiculous price. But regardless, it's just like the world is entirely alive. There's people in every zone just going about and doing things, and you just show up and it just plays easily. And what you pay for is what you get in terms of there's no subscription or anything. I just like it as a model. The art style for the game is kind of loose, like paint, but and they hardcore work with rule of cool. Like it is just, the cooler the thing is, the more likely it is to be in the game. Like they do not care about universe continuity necessarily. Like there is a timeline, there is like story. The timeline is also the same as ours. So like the year in game passes in the same time as a year. Anyways, it's good. If you're looking for another alternative MMO or just something you can pick up and put down in between things, or something that you can, like, if you're AFK on mobile, something to play in the background, I recommend it. I've enjoyed it as a time. I think just opening the game and playing it, you don't have to know anything about how an MMO functions, like, whatsoever, other than, like, you have a character, it's WASD movement, you hit buttons, things happen.
The 2 things that stand out for me from what you've shown me is that, one, it seems to have informed, systems in other MMOs. Like, I can see things that the Star Trek Online people have probably almost literally, said, hey, this looks like this is neat in Guild Wars. Let's bring over a similar sort of thing into Star Trek Online. So it's got that kind of penetration into the MMO market for that. And, the other thing is that you've talked about Elder Scrolls Online before, and I feel like if you compare ESO and Guild Wars, I feel like Guild Wars is probably closer to RuneScape than ESO is. Am I right in that?
Yeah, I mean, it's still
just in terms of
significantly
story
closer to like a WoW or something than it is to RuneScape. RuneScape plays so differently than every other MMO. But yes, Guild Wars is very story-based. If you are looking for a story, the Guild Wars story is fully linear. Like my first playthrough of it took like 1,000 hours of just start to finish, just playing through the story. And it's not like a Final Fantasy where you have to play through the story in order to play with other people. Like once you're leveled, you have access to all the things. But the story is like it is a linear story, start to finish, like one to the other. The most recent 2 expansions are a separate story arc from the first 10 years. So if you just want, like, Janthia Wilds came out, I think it's $30, like a month ago, and is a story that the first half of the story is out now, and the next half will be out over the next 12 months, with 3-month releases. And you can just, the zones are good, the mount is good. Yeah, I don't know. It's and again, the biggest thing for me is the no subscription. That is the like that if you just want to log in and do it, you just log in and do it. It has a lot of dailies, but it's so many that like they don't matter anymore. They're just well designed, and you play whatever you want, and you just get the daily reward for doing it. And there's just too many.
I think that's smart, because otherwise you wind up in a situation where, like, RS people have to pick and choose or do everything in that regard. So
yeah,
it's good. There's that conception that you don't need to.
Every content is daily content, so whatever content you do, you don't have to deal with the FOMO of missing out on the other things, because it'll be there when you want to do it.
Yay! No FOMO.
That's too hard.
Yeah. No,
but no.
that's an interesting topic in itself. But I feel like if we go there, we'll be here for a long time on FOMO, because I know that's something RuneScape players feel strongly about one way or another. I think that pretty much brings us to the end of this episode. Anybody else have any parting words on the skilling boss or anything?
No,
Color
but
pants, anything?
No, but I'm going to have to say goodbye and thank you, everyone, very quickly. My daughter has just texted me. Her car is not starting, so I've got to go get her, pick her up. So hope everyone had a good
Yep, we're done
game.
anyways, so fair enough. Thank you, Pern. Also,
okay, bye-bye.
Yep, also, of course, Tanis, always good to have you here on the podcast as well.
Thank you, Shane.
And, of course, Thaxi as well. Thank you for being here.
Glad to be back.
But, we do this each and every week, so if you want to be here for the next one, subscribe. Best way to do that is on all of the podcast listening services out there. Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Spotify, YouTube as well at youtube.com/RSBANDB. Do hit the like and subscribe buttons. It does mean the world to us. And with that being said, we'll see you next week for another episode of RSBANDB Update. See you then, everyone. Take care.
See ya.
Ciao.